What we're seeing in empirically, just in terms of our companies, no, not a shortage, because right now there already is a shortage. So if there already is a shortage and you're plugging in automation, what you're doing is you're actually filling in the shortage and you're actually enabling, say, let me just give a quick example. Say for a restaurant, let's not even worry about the specific technology here, but say for a restaurant, you have workers working there. They're understaffed. They can't keep up with lunch rush. And then afterwards, they're sort of sitting around or whatnot. The business has extremely thin margins. You might argue, well, you can't, and they can't hire anyone because no one's like everyone's leaving, or et cetera. Well, just pay more. Well, the business doesn't have the margins to pay more. Where are they going to find the thing to pay? Well, just raise prices. Well, if they raise prices, then customers will go elsewhere, and then they'll have even less margins and they'll go out of business. They're stuck. They have these workers, you can't pay them enough. No one's happy. Now you add an automation tool. Suddenly each worker is 10 times, say, more productive or whatnot. And, a lot more, and the margin expands substantially for the business. Suddenly the business owner is going to be happy to take some of that and retain workers to, if nothing else, consider them greedy, consider them evil, whatever you want to consider, but they'll want to pay them more just to take away the headache of having the constant turnover in terms of workers. So suddenly that automation actually is able to create better jobs, higher paying jobs for workers. When people say that automation is going to take away jobs, it's the same thing, in my opinion, as saying like, you know what, now that we've innovated and created shovels, construction workers will just be out of a job. They can't, no one will want like construction workers. Well, no, not really. It's like, okay, there's still certain things, you're going to have human supervisors, do whatever it is. But because you actually have more automation, more productivity, you're suddenly able to have higher margins and pay more. So that's what we're actually going for in terms of a lot of these different areas. Now, ChatGPT and whatnot, I can also talk about just framework wise, and sort of the short answer there is there's a distinction between knowledge workers and labor, just in terms of hands-on like labor. Knowledge workers have always been easier to automate, quote unquote, in some sort of way. Everything they do is on the computer. Everything they do is non-physical. The computer or AI can learn off of literally every single keystroke and action the person is doing. It was always easier to try to automate that with AI. Trying to get a machine to manipulate something in some sort of really sensitive and a way that's super intuitive for even the lowest trained human, that's super hard. It's actually super easy to get ChatGPT comparatively to get ChatGPT to spit out a bunch of things that look like a programmer wrote it. So knowledge workers have always been easier to try to replace, but in reality, what we usually see is similar actually to the labor side. You supplement people. So in terms of artists or whatnot, maybe digital artists will start to use ChatGPT, or not ChatGPT, but Midjourney or some of these other generative art tools to create, because that was a big thing. It's like, oh, artists will be out of business. Like, well, maybe they'll use that to either create inspiration or start an art piece and then refine it and create their own creations from it. It's a tool. It's like, is it that different than a Photoshop filter? Same thing in terms of labor. It's like, at the end of the day, you're not going to throw out all your labor. You're going to change the nature of your labor. And at this point, in terms of people, there's an interesting Gallup poll, actually, and stop me if this is going too much of a tangent, but there's an interesting Gallup poll where out of, billions of people, less than 10% of people actually have jobs that they're happy with.
Yeah.
There's a pretty big gap in terms of jobs, their jobs and jobs that people want. Automation, in our opinion, in terms of seeing the reality of it, can help bridge that gap where we get people the jobs they want. We're not just trying to throw bodies into positions. No one's happy in that case. So I'll stop there in terms of my